Welcome to Headline News. This is Maria Han. Biden again expresses that Xi Jinping has no democratic bone in his body. On Thursday, March 25th, U.S. President Joe Biden held his first press conference since taking office at the White House, during which 10 reporters asked questions. On a question about U.S.-China relations, Biden said the United States will compete fiercely with China and win by maintaining ties with allies and expanding investment in technology. Speaking about Xi Jinping, Biden praised him as a smart guy, but not democratic to the core. Quote, "I've known Xi Jinping for a long time," Biden said at the briefing. Allegedly, by the time I left office as vice president, I had spent more time with Xi Jinping than any world leader had, because President Obama and the Chinese President Hu decided we should get to know one another since it was inappropriate for the President of the United States to spend time with the Vice President of another country. But it was obvious he was going to become the new leader of China. So I spent hours upon hours with him alone with an interpreter, my interpreter and his, going into great detail, very, very straightforward. He doesn't have a democratic, with a small d, bone in his body, but he's a smart guy. He said, "The thing that I admire about dealing with Xi is he understands. He makes no pretense about not understanding what I'm saying anymore. I knew him. I pointed out to him, no leader can be sustained in his position or her position unless they represent the values of the country." This is the second time that Biden has brought up his relationship with Xi since he took office. During this year's Chinese New Year, Biden called Xi for a conversation, and he made a similar statement about Xi's lack of democratic awareness. On relations between China and the United States, Biden said Thursday that he sees the U.S. rivalry with Beijing as the most important front in the struggle between democracy and autocracy. He stated that the U.S. would invest closer to 2% of the entire GDP in science and technology to counter China's competition in these sectors since China has such ambitions. Biden also mentioned that he has made it clear to Xi Jinping that the U.S. will continue to talk to Beijing about its human rights abuses in an unrelenting way. Quote, "I see stiff competition with China," Biden said at his first press conference. "China has an overall goal, and I don't criticize them for the goal, but they have an overall goal to become the leading country in the world, the wealthiest country in the world, and the most powerful country in the world. That's not going to happen on my watch because the United States is going to continue to grow and expand." He also addressed the spending gap between the U.S. and China on infrastructure development, saying that China is investing 3 times more in infrastructure than the United States is, adding that the U.S. lags behind in infrastructure rankings globally. The statement was said to be a prelude to the latest trillion-dollar spending bills being discussed by the current administration, which involves investments in infrastructure, green energy, climate change, and other progressive agendas. Suez Canal Blockage triggers global impact. The Ever Given is a giant container ship operated by the Taiwanese company Evergreen Marine. While passing through the Suez Canal on the 23rd, it was stranded by strong winds. A global chain effect was triggered, affecting cargo trade, freight rates, oil prices, insurance, and wood and pulp products. According to data published by the Suez Canal Authority, SCA, nearly 19,000 ships with a total tonnage of 1.17 billion passed through the canal in 2020, which meant an average of 15.5 ships per day. About 12% of global trade depends on the Suez Canal, which links Europe and Asia. Nearly 10% of seaborne oil trade and 8% of liquefied natural gas pass through the Suez Canal. Lloyd's List values the Suez Canal's westbound traffic at $5.1 billion and eastbound traffic at $4.5 billion a day, for a total of $9.6 billion. In the case of canal shutdown, it meant the loss of trade per hour would be up to $400 million. Global container ship supply has already been disrupted by the pandemic. The whole incident worsened the situation. Reuters reported that a total of 206 large container ships, tankers carrying oil and gas, and bulk vessels hauling grain have been backed up at either end of the canal, according to the tracking data, creating one of the worst shipping jams seen for years. Russia and Saudi Arabia are the top two exporters of oil through the canal, while India and China are the main importers, oil analytics firm Vortexa said. Experts predicted that freight costs will increase, especially for ships passing through Europe. Mark Ma, owner of Seabay International Freight Forwarding Limited, said, "If it can't be resumed in a week, it will be horrible. We will see freight fares spike again." The Japan Times reported, "The Suez Canal blockage comes at a particularly unhelpful time," said Greg Knoller, European editor at JOC Group, which is part of IHS Markit Limited. Quote, "Even a 2-day delay would further add to the supply chain disruption, slowing the delivery of cargo to businesses across the UK and Europe." Due to the Suez Canal shutdown, international oil prices rebounded sharply on the 24th, with the New York Mercantile Exchange and West Texas Intermediate delivery price up $3.42 to $61.18 per barrel. London North Sea Brent crude oil's May delivery price rose $3.62 to $64.41 per barrel. In response, Leon Williams, a spokesman for Europe's largest port, Rotterdam, said, "Every port in Western Europe is going to feel this." Quote, "A total of 156 large container ships, tankers carrying oil and gas, and bulk vessels hauling grain have backed up at either end of the canal," Egypt's lead agency said, creating one of the worst shipping jams seen for years. Evergreen Marine announced that the Japanese owner of the Ever Given, Shoei Kisen Kaisha, has hired Dutch company Smith Salvage and Japanese company Nippon Salvage to work with the Suez Canal Authority on a rescue plan. Shipping industry sources revealed on Wednesday that the total amount of claims to be faced by Shoei Kisen Kaisha and the ship's insurer would be in the millions of dollars, and that they would face sky-high claims even if the Ever Given could be rescued immediately. British government claims that the Hong Kong government and Beijing have no right to order other countries to reject BNO passports. The Hong Kong government and Beijing told 14 countries around the world not to accept the British National Overseas BNO passport on Thursday, March 25th, while the British Foreign Office said on Friday, March 26th, that the Chinese Communist Party and the Hong Kong government have no right to order other countries to reject the BNO passport. As reported by Deutsche Welle, a spokeswoman for the British Foreign Office said that other countries have the right to decide for themselves which travel documents they will accept as identity documents. She said, quote, "The Hong Kong government has no authority to dictate which passports foreign governments recognize as valid. The UK will continue to issue British nationals overseas passports which remain valid travel documents." Following the sanctions imposed on the Chinese Communist Party on March 22nd by the British, European Union, US, and Canadian governments for its vicious acts against the Uyghurs in Xinjiang, the Hong Kong government wrote to the consulates of 14 countries including Australia, Austria, Canada, France, Germany, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Japan, South Korea, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Sweden, and the UK on March 25th, asking them to stop allowing Hong Kong youth to use their BNO passports to apply for working holiday visas in these countries. After the signing of the Sino-British Joint Declaration in 1984, the British government began issuing British Overseas Citizens BOC passports to Hong Kong residents who wished to retain their British nationality, and suspended the issuance of such passports for a time after the transfer of sovereignty in 1997. The British National Overseas Passport originally only confirmed British citizenship and provided British consular protection, but did not provide the holder with the right of abode in the UK. However, since the Chinese Communist Party violated the Sino-British Joint Declaration in July 2020 and unilaterally enforced the Hong Kong version of the national security law in Hong Kong, the British government announced that it would continue to issue BNO passports and, from January 2021, allow Hong Kong residents and their families who are eligible to apply for BNO passports to live, study, or work in the UK and, after 5 years of residence in the UK, allow them to apply for indefinite right of abode and, after 1 year of continued residence, be allowed to apply for British citizenship. On the 25th, the Hong Kong government and Beijing asked the 14 European, North American, and some Asian countries not to accept BNO passports as valid travel documents. But a Hong Kong diplomat said most of these countries will still accept BNO passports because the Chinese Communist Party and the Hong Kong government have no right to enforce the requirement. The report said that although it will be difficult for Hong Kong people to enter mainland China with such passports because the Chinese Communist Party refuses to recognize BNO passports, most Hong Kong residents still have Hong Kong identification cards and passports, and they can leave Hong Kong with them, so leaving will not be affected. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.